Welcome back to CGTN News. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Newman.
And I'm Parker Gillis. First up, the story on pollution, the deadly byproduct of industrialization in China.
And coming up, territorial disputes over islands in the South China Sea leads to tension between China and other countries.
As industrialization has been increasing, pollution has become a larger issue for the Chinese government. Let's go to our meteorologist, Becky Wu, for more information on Chinese environmental changes.
As you can see, I'm out here in the busy streets of Beijing, where the sky is brown with no signs of clearing up. Although China's capital is one of the most polluted cities in the country, it is not the only place affected by pollution. According to Chris Nielsen and Run Ho of Fortune, quote, smog levels in China reached historic levels earlier this year. As many as 32 cities were under red alert, the country's most severe pollution warning, end quote. The pollution in China have reached new extremes, being too high to the point where warnings are being issued for the safety of Chinese citizens. This poses a threat to their health, as an overexposure to smog can lead to lung problems such as bronchitis and asthma. Elderly citizens and young children are especially prone to the harmful effects of pollutants in the air. Because of these ongoing problems, President Xi Jinping has implemented many policies to solve China's environmental dilemma. Furthermore, according to Kenneth Raposa, a writer for Forbes, quote, China announced that it was increasing its standards for gasoline and diesel in order to cut emissions. Coal is dying in China because of pollution. Anyone selling coal to China or any utility dependent on coal in China is going to get beat down in 2017, end quote. Clearly, the Communist Party and the president are making large strides in the reduction of pollution. Because the communist regime in China has authority, the implementation of these policies are being observed, leading to a downward trend in sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide emissions. This ultimately contributes to an overall decrease in national pollution levels. By using less coal and oil, we can all help minimize air pollutants to create a cleaner environment in China. If pollution does not end in Beijing soon, it can prove to be a major global issue. Because air pollution is closely related to global warming, it is an indirect factor in the creation of the intense hurricanes that have hit Texas and Puerto Rico and the melting of icebergs in the North Pole. In order to maintain prosperity, we must continue to follow the environmental policies President Xi Jinping has enacted. That's all for this story. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Becky. Now let's dive into issues with the South China Sea.
For many centuries, China has always fought for territory that is rightfully theirs. More recently, they have been trying to claim the South China Sea as their own by creating man-made islands in this area. According to a Council on Foreign Relations article, it states China's highest rate of island development activity is taking place on the Parcel and Spratly Island chains. Beijing has reclaimed more than 2,900 acres since December 2013. Experts say that China's artificial island building and infrastructure construction are increasing its potential power projection capabilities in this region. Because the South China Sea is home to many important trade routes and fishing zones in Asia, controlling this region is vital for economic security. As a result, tensions are rising as countries compete for dominance. However, it is clear that the South China Sea belongs to China, considering that they have the most influence and land in this region. Ultimately, the strength of the Chinese government should be respected by other Asian countries.
To learn more about this issue, we've caught up with our policy expert, Willie. Thank you, Willie, for joining us for this interview. To start off, what countries are most involved in the South China Sea disputes?
China is the most prominent figure in trying to claim islands in the South China Sea, but Malaysia, the Philippines, Taiwan, Brunei, and Vietnam are also involved.
What can be done to end the tension in this region?
Like how the Council on Foreign Relations states, conflict can be reduced if China shared economic benefits with Taiwan and Vietnam through a fishing agreement. Furthermore, increased dialogue between military forces can also ease tensions between Asian countries. In the past, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea has tried to mitigate the risk of conflict escalation by concluding that China does not have historic rights to resources in the South China Sea and that the islands are not exclusive economic zones for China. However, the Chinese Foreign Ministry dismissed the court's ruling because it had no legal binding force.
Well, that's all the time that we have for these questions. Thank you again for joining us today, Willie.
Thanks for having me, Parker.
And that wraps up this afternoon's news segment.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in at 9 for a heartbreaking story about a mother and her newborn daughter's life-threatening illness.
I'm Parker.
And I'm Chris.
We'll catch
you later.